Welcome to Module 3. This is where you put down the admin hat from Module 2 and pick up the developer one. Everything from here on happens in Claude Code, connected to your local Salesforce DX project through the Salesforce DX MCP server you set up back in episode 2. This episode is one continuous, realistic build. You are going to extend an existing Apex service, add a Lightning Web component, and wire up a flow all in one session, all driven by Claude Code talking to your dev org through MCP tools instead of you hand typing SF commands. Think of this as day in the life episode for a Salesforce developer using AI as a genuine pair programmer. So in VS Code, we're just going to start the Claude. We just started the Claude, and just to reiterate, we have got the MCP. So we are using the Salesforce DX MCP. This is the one that we are using. So let's go back to presentation. Quick continuity. In episode 5, Sam, that's what I am in this scenario, used hosted MCP to read Northwind's financing rules records and evaluate live deals against them. Today, you are switching to the developer implementation of that same financing policy in Financing Eligibility Service class. Same free developer edition org from episode 2, same local SFDX project, same MCP server connection, just a deeper, more technical session, nothing new to set up. You are reusing infrastructure you already have. Here's the shape of today's feature, and it's deliberately cross-cutting because that's what real Salesforce work looks like. You are adding a bulk discount tier to the Apex scoring logic. Big equipment order should get a better financing rate. Then you are building a small LWC that shows that score and tier right on the opportunity page so that sales team doesn't have to go dig for it. And you are wiring a flow that triggers the whole evaluation automatically when a rep marks a deal ready for financing review. Three different metadata type, one coherent feature, exactly the kind of task where an agentic tool earned its keep because it can hold all three pieces in its head at once. This is a quick refresher table so you know what's happening under the hood. The metadata tool set pulls down current Apex, LWC, and flow source before anything gets edited, and pushes the finish set when you are ready to deploy. The Apex toolset runs your test class and reports coverage. The data and the SOQL toolset lets Claude spot check real opportunity record instead of guessing at the field value. And the org toolset confirms exactly which org you are pointed at. Critical because you never want an agent unsure whether it's talking to your sandbox or something else. Same server, same tools, you are already connected today. You must lean on more of them at once. This is the habit that separates a good Claude Code session from a frustrating one. Before you ask for new code, have it look at what's already there. Here, Sam, that's the user, tells Claude Code to retrieve the current source for financing eligibility service and its test class, describe the opportunity object, and pull a handful of real record, all before writing a single line. This matters because Claude Code isn't relying on a stale memory of what your org might look like. It's reading the actual metadata and actual data through the MCP server tool. Let's copy this and let's paste it in the VS Code Claude. You see it is reading the MCP file. So Claude is asking me whether I have to use this particular tool. I'll say yes. It has found that particular Apex class financing eligibility service. It is giving more information about the opportunity fields. This matters because Claude Code isn't relying on a stale memory of what your org might look like. It's reading the actual metadata and actual data through the MCP server tool. That's the whole value proposition of MCP over copy pasting code in a chat window. Here's what the inspection surface, the real evaluate method signatures, the real field name, industry segment, and confirmation that there is already a financing result wrapper object to extend rather than reinvent. This is a small thing, but it matters enormously in practice. If Claude had guessed at a field name instead of confirming it, you get a code that compiles fine locally and then fails to deploy, or worse, silently does the wrong things. Grounding the session in real metadata upfront eliminates that entire failure. This is a single prompt that carries the rest of the episode and is worth studying closely because that is what good prompting looks like for development work. Notice it names the exact class, states the business rule with precise numbers, $75,000, 10 line items, specifies the boundary test cases you want covered, describe all three deliverables, and explicitly asks to see the difference before anything deploys. Compare that to something vague like add a discount tier. You get a plausible looking code with none of the guardrails. Specificity here is doing all the work. So let's copy this particular prompt and let's paste it in the Claude code. So I'm back on VS Code and let me just expand this. So I'm saying Claude, add a discount tier if amount is more than 75K and an opportunity has 10 plus equal line items. Add a plus 15 score bonus and set tier to tier 2 bulk discount. Add test covering qualifies at exactly 10 items. So these are the test cases. Now let's, and then I'm also saying to create a record trigger flow. And then I'm saying show me difference before deploying anything. So this is just to make sure that Claude should not deploy to the org before taking the approval. So Claude is using one of the tool of MCP to retrieve the metadata to the local repo. Claude is providing a plan. Now it is adding the test classes. Now it is running the flow generation tool from the MCP. It tells me that the MCP is not able to use the flow generation. So I'm saying, okay, hand author the flow XML now, or probably we'll skip the flow for now. Let's do a hand author one and let's see. Claude is writing the flow. It is now completed all the to-dos. It's just doing the last one, where it is going to show us the difference before we're able to deploy it. Let's go back to presentation. Let's look at the Claude plan. Before touching a single file, Claude Code lays out its plan as 6 discrete steps. which is add the method, write it to the existing entry point, add three specific tests, build the LWC file, create the flow, and then stop and show the diff. This is good agentic behavior, a plan you can sanity check in 5 seconds before any code changes happen. If something in this plan look wrong, say it planned to replace evaluate instead of extending it. This is where you catch it for free before it costs you anything. So let's go back. So if you look over here, it tells me what is it modified, what are the new files that it added, and also it tells that the flow was created manually instead of using the MCP tool. So in case if needed, we can go deep into an Apex class and then find it out. But when it says it modified, let's go back. Says it modified this particular class. It tells like what was the bulk discount branch that it added. That's what we are talking about over here. Then also the test class, and also with respect to building the LWC. So if we go over here, it says also added or enabled, then created this particular LWC option record page component wired live into get eligibility. Okay, so let's go back to presentation. The next one was flow. Now, before we have to deploy, we have to cross check certain things before we ask Claude to deploy it. So never let an agent deploy and on autopilot. The first time it touches logic, other parts of your org depends on. You have to scroll the entire diff, the Apex, the LWC markup, and the flow XML and ask yourself specific question. Did it only add to the existing branches or did it quietly rewrite something? Does the flow trigger conditions reference the same field API name you use elsewhere? Are there hard-coded thresholds that really belongs in custom metadata instead? 2 minute here is dramatically cheap than the debugging a bad deploy after the fact. So now if everything looks good, I'll say yes. Let me just copy this. So I'll deploy the Apex class to instead of my DevOps, let me just give specifically the org alias AF underscore demo. So now I've given instruction to Claude to deploy the Apex class, test class, LWC, and flow. I'll say yes, proceed with this particular tool, deploy. Says that deploy failed because of the test coverage. So it's going to ensure that the test coverage is also there. So now it says that everything is deployed with 84% as the coverage. And regarding the flow, it says it is 0%, but that's an optional one for the test coverage for the flow. So let's go back to presentation. So this is what got deployed, where we had component test classes ran, And also, you would have noticed that we have not used anything with respect to CLI commands. Everything was done using MCP. Let's take a quick recap of the habits this episode reinforced. Inspect before you generate. Write specific prompts that name boundaries and deliverables. Review diffs before deployment. And let the MCP tool handle the execution and deployment. Next episode, take this further. Instead of a feature you design yourself, you are starting from a real ticket, someone else's user story, and taking it all the way through implementation testing and a genuine pull request using the GitHub CLI. This is that custom financial eligibility badge, the LWC. So in Salesforce, let's see if we can place it. We are going to save it, activate, we'll close it. So now this LWC component is visible on the opportunity itself.